The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, shining like diamonds scattered over a velvet cloth. Captain Alara Voss leaned against the railing of the U.E.S. Horizon, the human exploration vessel, and watched them in quiet thought. She had spent her entire life reaching for the edges of space, always convinced that humans could rise above any challenge. Her crew called her confident, even brilliant, but some whispered that her pride sometimes blinded her. Yet today, pride felt justified. They were about to reach the newly discovered planet, known only by its catalog number, Carrion IV. "This is it, Captain," said Lieutenant Rylan, her second-in-command, stepping beside her. "Sensors are picking up life signs. Intelligent, advanced, unlike anything we've scanned before." Alara straightened, eyes narrowing. "Good. Let's see what they've got. Remember, Rylan, humans are not just visitors. We're pioneers. And pioneers don't bow to anyone." Rylan nodded, though he couldn't hide a flicker of doubt. There was something in the reports that unnerved even the most experienced officers. Carrion IV wasn't just alive. It was vibrant, almost unnaturally so. The readings hinted at a species capable of psychic energy manipulation. And for Alara, that made the challenge all the more interesting. The planet slowly grew on the view screen. Oceans shimmered with colors that didn't exist on Earth, shifting from emerald green to turquoise in irregular patterns. Mountains curved impossibly high, their peaks wreathed in clouds that pulsed faintly, as if breathing. The most striking feature, however, was the glow. Carrion IV emitted a soft, pale light even in areas untouched by the sun. The human crew whispered about it, awe in their voices, but Alara only smiled slightly. "Beautiful," she said. "But beauty is weakness if it hides what's beneath. Stay sharp. Stay sharp." The landing was smooth, but the ground beneath them vibrated faintly, a warning that Alara noticed immediately. The Zainari, as the preliminary scans identified them, appeared soon after, rising from the forests like living sculptures. Their forms were tall and elegant, their skin translucent and shimmering with colors that reflected their mood. Their eyes, large and luminous, fixed on the humans with curiosity. Alara stepped forward as the lead human. Her boots made no sound on the soft alien soil, and she carried herself with calm authority. "I am Captain Alara Voss of the United Earth Fleet," she said. Her voice was firm but respectful. "We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a figure stepped forward from the Zainari. Her presence was commanding, even without words. Her skin shifted from a soft violet to a bright silver, signaling something that Alara couldn't quite interpret. "I am Celia," the Zainari spoke, not with sound, but through thought images and emotions projected directly into the minds of those nearby. Humans were quick to adapt, but even they felt the force of her intelligence. Alara caught a flicker of emotion. "Caution. You are far from home, humans. Why do you come?" Alara met her gaze steadily. "Exploration, understanding, cooperation. We believe that despite differences, we can learn from each other." Celia tilted her head slightly. Curiosity glimmered in her psychic projection, mixed with caution and something else. Amusement. Alara didn't miss it. The Zainari's abilities were strong, but she felt no fear. She had faced hostile worlds, dangerous species, and countless unknowns. Confidence, she believed, was stronger than fear. The first interaction was tense but peaceful. Humans set up temporary stations near the landing site, scanning the environment and taking notes. The Zainari observed silently, their forms flickering like lights in a cathedral, almost like they were judging. That evening, a sudden tremor shook the planet. It began as a low hum beneath the soil and quickly escalated into a violent quake. Trees swayed, and the shimmering forest canopy waved like a sea in a storm. The Zainari screamed in psychic resonance, a soundless scream felt as pressure in the mind, a vibration of pain and panic. Alara watched without flinching. "Captain, the structures! shouted Rylan. "They're collapsing. We have to help them." Ilara shook her head slightly. "Observe first. Understand the pattern." She knelt, tracing the tremor data on her portable console. The humans moved quickly, securing their equipment and assisting where they could, but Ilara stayed focused. The Zanari struggled, their psychic networks overloaded by the seismic activity. Their cries echoed in Ilara's mind. Terrifying, yet fascinating. She had seen struggle before. She had seen weaker species crumble. And here, she thought, the difference was clear. Humans adapted faster. "See that, Lieutenant?" she said, pointing at the Zanari attempting to stabilize their city with their psychic abilities. "They're powerful, yes, but fragile. All brilliance has its limits." Rylan didn't respond immediately. He watched the aliens, clearly uncomfortable. "They're suffering," he said softly. Ilara didn't disagree, but her focus was elsewhere. "And yet," she said, almost to herself, "they survive. That is the part they don't understand. Survival requires more than power or talent. It requires mind, calculation, and resolve. Something we humans have in abundance." The quake subsided after a tense half-hour. Many Zanari lay exhausted. Their lights dimmed, while their cities bore the marks of chaos. Ilara finally moved among them, offering assistance where it was needed, but always with calm, measured steps. She was not unkind, but she did not allow panic to sway her. Celia approached, her silver light now steady. She projected a complex emotion, a mix of relief, frustration, and respect. "You do not fear what we endure," she thought, almost as if testing Ilara's reaction. Ilara met her gaze. "Fear is a tool. It teaches weakness. We learn faster when we remain composed." Celia's form shimmered, perhaps in acknowledgement. Yet even in the silent exchange, Ilara felt a subtle warning. These beings were intelligent, and underestimating them could be dangerous. But that thought did not frighten her. It exhilarated her. Over the next days, humans and Zainari cautiously engaged. The Zainari were skilled in their psychic arts, capable of feats humans could barely comprehend. Yet Ilara noticed patterns, moments when their brilliance faltered under pressure, when physical limits or emotional stress became their weakness. She analyzed, recorded, and adapted. She walked through their cities, marveling at the technology seamlessly integrated with nature, but never forgetting her belief. Humans were resilient, adaptable, and superior in ways that brute psychic power could not match. Every failure she observed in the Zainari, every moment of panic during crises, seemed to confirm her theory. Yet, amid her pride, a small voice in her mind, one she ignored at first, whispered caution. There was a depth here, a potential she could not fully measure. But Ilara was confident she could handle it. She had faced unknowns before, and emerged victorious. This would be no different. As the first week drew to a close, Ilara stood on a cliff overlooking the glowing forests below. The Zanari cities shimmered in the twilight, their lights flickering like tiny stars. She could hear their psychic hum in the distance, a sound that had become almost rhythmic, soothing in its strangeness. Rylan joined her quietly. "Do you think they'll accept us?" he asked. Ilara looked at the horizon, eyes steady, mind calculating. Acceptance is irrelevant. Understanding is the goal. And we humans, we understand better than anyone. She paused, a faint smile on her lips. Soon, they'll realize it too. Below, the Zanari continued their struggle to rebuild, their cries of pain echoing faintly through the forest and into Ilara's mind. She did not flinch. She only watched, studying, learning, and preparing for the trials to come. In her heart, she felt certain. Superiority was not just a claim. It was a reality humans would prove one challenge at a time. And above the glowing forests of Carrion IV, the stars continued to watch silently, as they had watched for millennia, indifferent to human pride or alien suffering. The morning light of Carrion the Fourth filtered through the shimmering forest canopy, turning the leaves into floating crystals of green and gold. Captain Alara Voss stood at the edge of the Zainari city, her eyes scanning the elegant structures that blended so perfectly with nature that it seemed the planet itself had grown them. Today, she would face her first true challenge, the trial of the mind. The Zainari had invited her. At first, she had been amused. A trial? Against a species she considered flawed in their moments of weakness? Still, Alara understood the value of observation. She accepted the invitation, confident that her human mind could conquer whatever puzzle the Zainari devised. Celia arrived, her form glowing a steady silver, signaling respect and seriousness. Around her, other Zainari gathered, their lights shimmering in patterns that pulsed like music. They had formed a circle, leaving space in the center for the trial. You will face 3 trials, Celia projected into Alara's mind. Logic, perception, and empathy. Only those who can balance all 3 may be considered equals in thought. Alara's lips curled into a faint smile. Logic, perception, empathy. She had trained her mind for years, solving complex problems, planning strategies, and understanding enemy behavior. Empathy was secondary, yes, but not impossible. She was ready. The first trial began with a puzzle unlike any she had seen. A structure of shifting energy blocks hovered in the air, each connected by glowing strands. The Zainari spoke no words. Instead, the patterns of light conveyed the rules. Alara must rearrange the blocks so that energy flowed smoothly from the source to all nodes, without interruption. Her fingers danced across the holographic controls, calculating angles, energy flow, and patterns. The Zainari watched silently, their lights dimming and brightening as she worked. Within minutes, the blocks fell into place, energy flowing perfectly. Well done, Celia projected. You understand logic. Few have done this as quickly. Alara bowed slightly, hiding her satisfaction. She had expected this. Humans excelled at problem-solving. The challenge had barely warmed her mind. The second trial tested perception. She was placed in a room where the walls shifted constantly, forming illusions. Every corridor looked like a path, every door a way forward. To succeed, she had to identify the correct sequence of moves to reach the center of the room. The room was disorienting, designed to confuse, but Alara's human senses were sharp. She noticed small patterns in the shifting walls, tiny irregularities that betrayed the true path. Step by step, she moved, calculating, adjusting, never faltering. At last, she reached the center, the Zainari lights around her brightening in acknowledgement. You see clearly, Celia projected, almost approvingly. But clarity alone is not enough. Alara nodded politely. She was beginning to sense the final challenge would be the most difficult. Empathy. That was the trial she had always considered less important than intellect. Humans learned it, yes, but it was often weaker than the raw logic of their minds. The third trial began differently. A holographic projection of a Zainari being appeared before her, writhing in psychic distress. Alara could feel the pain, the fear, and the confusion, as though it were her own mind. She froze for a moment, surprised by the intensity. It was not physical, not external. This pain was mental, and it demanded understanding, not calculation. You must feel what they feel, Celia projected. Not just sense it. Only then can you succeed. Alara clenched her fists. She had faced danger before, fought enemies, and survived disasters. Yet this was different. The struggle was not against something outside. It was inside her mind. The being's distress pulsed like waves, and she realized she had to calm it, not dominate it. She closed her eyes, focusing not on herself, but on the holographic Zainari. She imagined their fear, their struggle to maintain control, their desire to survive. Slowly, she matched her own thoughts to theirs. Not to overpower, but to understand. The sensation was strange. almost overwhelming. It felt like touching a storm without being blown away, like holding fire without burning. Minutes passed. Alara could feel her mind adapting, learning to resonate with the alien consciousness. She shifted her focus from judgment to empathy, from control to connection. The Zinari being's writhing slowed, its pain dimmed. Slowly, the projection stabilized, transforming from a chaotic wave into a calm, luminous figure. Celia's lights flared brightly, a signal of approval. "You feel beyond yourself," she projected. "Few humans achieve this. You understand that strength is not only measured by knowledge or skill, but by connection, by respect for others' minds." Alara opened her eyes, a small smile forming. For the first time, she felt humility. Not weakness, but a recognition that superiority was more complex than she had thought. The human's ability to adapt and survive was impressive, yes. But the Zinari's depth of perception and emotional resonance was equally formidable. The trial was over, yet the lessons lingered. The Zinari did not see her as dominant, nor as inferior. She had passed, yes, but not by sheer force of intellect. She had passed by learning to balance mind and heart, something she had underestimated in her pride. Rylan approached, his expression a mix of awe and curiosity. "Captain, that was remarkable. You connected with them, mentally. How did you do it?" Alara thought for a moment, considering the right words. "I stopped trying to dominate," she said finally. "I observed, listened, and let their experience guide me. Humans are clever, yes, but intelligence alone is not enough to lead or understand. Connection is just as important." Rylan nodded slowly, clearly absorbing the lesson. He had always admired Alara's intellect, but even he realized that she had grown today in ways beyond calculation. The Zinari surrounded them afterward, their lights shimmering in soft waves. A quiet celebration of understanding, rather than victory. Alara noticed that even those who had suffered during the trial seemed calmer, more open to the human's presence. It was a subtle change, but significant. Days passed as humans and Zinari shared knowledge, technology, and culture. Alara observed, guided, and adapted. She noticed patterns, strengths, and weaknesses, but now she also appreciated subtleties. The Zinari's ability to sense danger through psychic perception, their resilience under psychic strain, and their capacity to respond creatively to challenges. It was during one of these exchanges that a human scientist accidentally triggered a small psychic surge in a laboratory. The Zinari nearby reacted instinctively, their psychic energy flaring in pain. Alara immediately acted, organizing the humans to stabilize the situation and simultaneously projecting calm through her own mind to ease the Zinari's distress. The incident was brief, but it left a lasting impression on the humans. Intellect and technology were powerful, yes, but empathy and connection could prevent disasters. That logic alone could not. That night, as the twin moons of Carrion IV rose, Alara walked alone along the cliff overlooking the glowing forests. The lights of the Zinari city shimmered below, reflecting in the pools of water scattered across the cliffs. She reflected on the day's events, the trial, and the subtle lessons she had learned. She had entered the trial confident, believing humans superior in all measurable ways. Now, she understood that superiority was not simply a measure of intellect, skill, or physical prowess. It was also about adaptability, understanding, and respect. She felt a quiet determination grow within her. The Zinari, she realized, were not opponents to conquer, but partners to understand. The true challenge would not be dominance, but collaboration, and if humans could learn to balance intellect with empathy, there would be no limit to what they could achieve. Alara turned back toward the city, her mind sharp and focused. Tomorrow, the next phase of exploration awaited. The planet, the Zinari, and even herself were still mysteries. Yet she felt ready. For the first time, her confidence was tempered with insight. She no longer saw the Zinari merely as subjects to study or obstacles to surpass. She saw them as equals in the complex web of survival, intellect, and emotion. And as she descended toward the city, the quiet hum of psychic energy enveloped her, not as a threat, but as an invitation to learn, to grow, and to prove that humans could be more than conquerors. They could be collaborators, capable of greatness through understanding as well as strength. Alara smiled softly. The trial of the mind had begun. But in truth, it was only the first step of a journey that would challenge everything she believed about superiority, resilience, and what it truly meant to be human. The calm of Carrion the Force forests was deceptive. From orbit, the planet seemed serene, bathed in its strange green-gold light. But beneath the surface, the planet pulsed with unpredictable energy. Scientists had called it a natural magnetic storm system. But to the humans and Zanari on the surface, it was something far more dangerous, a threat that could destroy the cities and lives they had begun to understand and respect. Captain Alara Voss stood at the edge of the Zainari city. Her eyes narrowed as she read the data streaming from the sensors. "Magnetic storm," she said aloud. "Stronger than we predicted. It's moving faster. If we don't act now, the cities will fail." Lieutenant Rylan, standing beside her, looked alarmed. "Captain, the psychic systems, they're already reacting. The Zanari are in pain. Their networks are overloading. We need a plan." Alara clenched her jaw. She had faced danger countless times, asteroid fields, rogue AI, hostile species, but this was different. It wasn't an external enemy she could fight with tactics and firepower. It was an invisible force that could turn a brilliant civilization into chaos. And the Zainari, for all their power, were struggling to survive it. "Rylan," she said, voice steady, "we combine our strengths. Humans can stabilize the physical structures. The Zainari can guide the energy flows. But we do this together. No orders from me alone. Coordination is the key." The Zainari had already begun to gather, their lights flickering in frantic pulses, signaling distress. Alara took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Celia," she projected mentally. Using the psychic connection the trial had strengthened. "We need your guidance. Show us how to channel the energy safely. We will support physically and structurally." Celia's lights dimmed briefly, a sign of hesitation. But then she extended her awareness to Alara and the humans. The connection was strange, like reaching across a vast chasm of thought. Yet it worked. Humans felt the psychic patterns of the planet, the surging currents of magnetic energy, the nodes where the Zainari struggled to maintain balance, the weak points in the city's structure. "Follow my lead," Alara instructed. "Engineers, focus on the structural reinforcements. Everyone else, assist in stabilizing the energy nodes under Zainari guidance." The operation began. Humans moved quickly, constructing supports and stabilizers using the advanced tools they had brought. They worked with precision, guided by Alara's clear commands. The Zainari, meanwhile, projected psychic energy to counter the magnetic surges. The scene was chaotic, a blend of human engineering and alien power. Yet, Alara's mind remained calm, analyzing, adjusting, and coordinating every step. Minutes felt like hours. The storm intensified, pulsing through the planet like a living heartbeat. The Zainari around her shivered with psychic pain, their lights flashing violently as they struggled to maintain control. Alara could feel their cries, not as a threat to herself, but as a signal of urgency. Every flicker of color, every pulse of energy, she interpreted and acted upon. "Focus on Node 12, she projected to the Zainari nearest her. "Rylan, deploy the stabilizer beam at Sector Delta. Keep the angle precise." Now, it worked. The node pulsed less violently, energy flowing more smoothly. But the storm was relentless. Another node flared, and a massive surge threatened to cascade through the city. Alara acted instinctively, coordinating humans and Zainari simultaneously. "Contain it. Together. Don't let it spread." Her voice was calm, but her mind was a storm of calculations and instincts. She could feel the Zenari struggling around her, their psychic energy straining, their pain evident. Yet they did not falter. They had learned from her example to work with discipline. Not panic. Hours passed in a blur. Sweat dripped from human foreheads. The Zenari's light shimmered and dimmed as they pushed through exhaustion. Elara herself was drained. Yet she pressed on. Every time a surge threatened a city block, she reacted instantly, deploying humans and Zenari like pieces on a chessboard. The city shuddered under the strain, but slowly, the chaos began to stabilize. At one point, a surge hit directly beneath the central energy core of the city. The Zenari closest to it cried out in psychic agony, their lights flashing violently. Elara moved without hesitation, positioning human stabilizers while channeling calm through the psychic link. "Feel my focus," she projected. "You are not alone. Together, we are stronger." The effect was immediate. The Zenari's energy began to synchronize with her direction. The core stabilized. The pulse slowed. And the city trembled. Less violently, a wave of relief passed through the combined forces. Humans cheered softly. The Zenari, exhausted but steady, dimmed their lights in acknowledgement. Celia approached, her glow soft and calm now. "You have learned quickly," she projected, "not only to lead, but to guide. You understand that strength alone is not enough. Together, your species and ours can overcome even this storm." Elara nodded, chest heavy but proud. "We survive not by strength alone, Celia. We survive by coordination, respect, and trust. Humans can adapt quickly, but even we need allies to face a force like this." The storm gradually subsided as evening approached. The magnetic pulses decreased, the psychic nodes relaxed, and the cities, though scarred, remained standing. Humans and Zenari alike were exhausted, but there was a sense of triumph in the air. They had faced a planetary disaster and survived because they had worked together. Later, as Elara walked through the city with Rylan, she observed the Zenari repairing their networks and stabilizing their homes. There was a quiet dignity in their actions, a resilience that reminded her of humanity itself. "Captain," Rylan said softly, "I've never seen you like this before. You were different in the storm. Calm, guiding, but also understanding. It was more than leadership. It was connection." Elara smiled faintly. "That's the lesson of today, Rylan. Intelligence and skill are useless if we cannot work with others. Power is meaningless without coordination. And strength is hollow without understanding. Humans are clever, yes, but even we must learn to balance ourselves with those we work alongside." As night fell, the twin moons rose over the glowing forests. Elara found a quiet cliff overlooking the city, the lights of the Zenari homes shimmering like constellations. She reflected on the day, on the storm, and on the subtle but profound change she felt within herself. For the first time, she no longer felt that superiority was simply about being stronger or smarter. True superiority, she realized, was about adaptability, empathy, and collaboration. It was about lifting others and being lifted in return. The humans had survived the storm, yes, but only because they had respected the Zenari's abilities and worked alongside them as equals. Celia approached silently, her light calm and gentle. She projected a thought into Elara's mind. "Today, you proved that humans can rise not just through intellect, but through understanding. You are worthy of trust." Elara returned the projection with a subtle glow of her own. "And today, I learned that superiority is not about dominance, but about harmony. I will not forget this lesson." The humans began setting up permanent support systems for the cities over the following days. They worked closely with the Zenari, combining technology with psychic guidance, building structures that could withstand future storms. The collaboration created a bond that neither species had expected but both needed. Elara watched the progress with quiet pride. The Zenari were strong, brilliant, and resilient. Humans were adaptable, inventive, and courageous. Together, they could face challenges that neither could endure alone. The storm had been a test, though neither species had initially realized it. It had tested not only their skill and strength, but their willingness to trust and collaborate. The Xenari had learned to respect human adaptability, and humans had learned to respect the Xenari's psychic depth. Elara stood on the cliff one last time before returning to the city. The wind carried the faint hum of psychic energy through the forests. A reminder that Carrion the Four was alive in ways humans could barely comprehend. But it was also a reminder of what they had achieved together. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring new challenges. The planet still held mysteries, and the Xenari still had lessons to teach. Yet, for the first time, Elara felt certain that humans and aliens could work together, not as masters and subjects, but as partners. And in that certainty lay true strength. The stars above shone silently, indifferent to the struggles below. Yet Elara knew one thing. Humanity had proven itself not through pride or dominance, but through resilience, intelligence, and the courage to work with others. That was a power no storm, no threat, and no challenge could ever take away. The morning sun rose over Carrion the Fourth, casting long, golden streaks across the glowing forests and elegant Xenari cities. Captain Elara Voss stood on the observation platform of the main human research station, watching the alien world breathe in its strange rhythm. The magnetic storms were gone, leaving only faint traces in the cities, reminders of what had been endured and overcome. Elara's mind replayed the events of the last days. The trials, the psychic challenges, the planetary storm each had tested not only human skill but human humility. She had arrived confident in her superiority, believing humans were unmatched in intellect and adaptability. Yet now, she understood something far deeper. Superiority was not just measured in power or speed of thought. It was measured in cooperation, understanding, and resilience. Celia approached, her silver light flickering gently. "You have grown," she projected. "Not in strength, but in comprehension. You see the value in balance." Elara met her gaze, a faint smile forming. "I have learned that humans are strong, yes, but only with guidance, empathy, and trust can that strength be truly meaningful." Today was different. Today was a celebration not of victory, but of partnership. Humans and Xenari had agreed to formalize their cooperation, combining knowledge, resources, and technology to prepare for the unknown challenges that lay ahead. The cities had been repaired, the storm defense system stabilized, and both species had learned to communicate and work together in ways neither had anticipated. The ceremony began in the central plaza of the largest Xenari city. Humans and Xenari alike gathered, their lights and uniforms glowing under the twin moon's soft glow. Elara stood at the front, flanked by Celia and the other leaders of the Xenari Council. A large holographic display showed the cities, the forests, and the humans' contributions, structural reinforcements, energy stabilizers, and emergency response networks. "This day," Elara began, her voice carrying across the plaza, "marks a turning point for both our species. We have faced challenges that tested our minds, our courage, and our spirit. We have survived storms that threatened to destroy everything we hold dear, and we have done it together." Celia extended her light toward the humans, a gesture of trust and respect. "Humans have shown us that intelligence alone is not enough. It is courage, adaptability, and willingness to connect that make a species strong. Today, we acknowledge your worth as partners in survival and progress." The crowd erupted in soft pulses of color, the Xenari's way of expressing joy and approval. Humans applauded, though quietly they understood that this was not a victory in the traditional sense. It was a recognition that superiority was not about dominance, but about contribution and collaboration. After the ceremony, Elara walked through the city with Rylan, observing the rebuilding efforts. Humans and Xenari worked side by side, exchanging ideas and techniques. The alien psychic systems, once overwhelming to humans, were now understood and respected. Likewise, human engineering, precise and adaptable, complemented the psychic networks. "They're learning quickly," Rylan said. pointing to a group of Zinari carefully adjusting stabilizers under human guidance. And they're teaching us things we could never have predicted. It's incredible, Alara nodded. Yes, that's the key. Rylan, we learn from each other. Our strengths combined create something greater than either species alone. That is what true superiority looks like. In the following days, new initiatives were launched. Human scientists worked with Zinari researchers to study the planet's energy currents, discovering ways to predict storms and harness their power safely. Engineers collaborated on energy storage and distribution systems that combined human technology with Zinari psychic influence. Alara spent her time overseeing these projects, but also observing quietly. She noticed subtle changes in herself. Where she had once approached problems with pride and detachment, she now approached them with thoughtfulness and respect. Where she had once assumed humans were always the strongest, she now recognized that strength took many forms. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Alara stood on a cliff overlooking the glowing forests. The air was filled with the gentle hum of psychic energy, a sound that had once been overwhelming and alien. Now it was familiar, almost comforting. She realized that Carrion IV had taught her more than any battlefield or classroom could. It had taught her that understanding others, respecting their abilities, and working together was a form of power far greater than any single mind could achieve. Celia joined her, her light soft and steady. "Captain," she projected, "the humans have changed our perception. You have proven that strength is not measured by what one can control, but by what one can harmonize. You see clearly now." Alara looked at her, feeling the weight and truth of the words. "Yes," she said, "I see now. Superiority is not about being above others. It's about rising together, helping each other endure, adapt, and thrive. That is how any species survives, how any species becomes great." Celia's glow brightened in approval. "Then let us continue together. There is much to explore, much to learn, and together, humans and Zinari will shape a future neither could achieve alone." Alara smiled, a sense of peace settling in her chest. She had begun this mission believing in human supremacy, confident that intelligence and courage alone were enough, but now she understood that true greatness required humility, respect, and connection. That was the lesson Carrion IV had taught her, a lesson she would carry into every corner of the galaxy humans explored. As night deepened, the city below shimmered in harmonious light. Humans and Zinari moved together, repairing, building, and preparing for whatever the universe might throw at them next. Alara stood among them, no longer as a superior observing lesser beings, but as a partner, guiding and learning in equal measure. The planet had been a test, the trials had been challenges, and the storm had been a threat. Yet out of all this, something remarkable had emerged: cooperation, mutual respect, and a shared understanding of what it meant to be strong. Alara realized that humans had not proven themselves superior by overpowering the Zinari. They had proven it by learning, adapting, and connecting qualities that ensured survival and growth far beyond raw power or intellect. The stars above Carrion IV twinkled silently, as they had for millennia, watching civilizations rise and fall. But tonight, they bore witness to something rare. Not dominance, not conquest, but partnership. A human and an alien species, standing side by side, acknowledging that strength alone was meaningless without understanding. Alara took one last look at the glowing forests, the shining cities, and the humans and Zinari working together below. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment. For the first time, she no longer needed to prove superiority in the old sense. She understood that true greatness came from lifting others, respecting differences, and forging bonds that no force in the universe could break. And as the night wind carried the soft hum of psychic energy across the cliffs, Alara Voss, captain of the U.E.S. Horizon, felt a quiet certainty in her heart. Humans and Zinari would face any challenge together. And together they would endure, adapt, and rise to heights neither could reach alone. The journey was far from over. There would be new trials, new threats, and new discoveries. But for now, Alara allowed herself to simply watch, to learn, and to appreciate the remarkable reality that had emerged on this distant world. The lesson of Carrion IV was clear. Superiority was not about power, pride, or dominance. It was about courage, understanding, and the willingness to rise together. And in that, humans had found their true strength. As dawn approached, painting the sky with streaks of gold and pink, Alara turned back toward the city. A new day had begun, one filled with possibility, collaboration, and promise. And for the first time, she felt that the human race, with all its flaws and brilliance, had found not only its place in the universe, but its role among the stars as equals, not conquerors, but partners in survival and growth.